Outsmarting my unhinged neighbor with winter chill. Back in college, two pals and I sought an off-campus place together. We found a lovely 3-bedroom house with surprisingly low rent. The basement was considered a separate apartment, but no worries, it had its entrance, and the stairs were blocked. Yet, the thermostat was with us. Then came the demon neighbor. We heard it all from upstairs. This grown lady would shout at her mom for cash, demand her guy bring meth, and once even yelled at 3 puppies she brought home. We feared her, and her noise was unbearable. And we were dumb enough to sign a lease that made us pay her utility bills. But we thought we could tough it out with just 2 months left on the lease. But then she began smoking. Non-stop. Landlord said she quit when she moved in, but that lasted 2 days. With winter, our heating was on constantly, bringing her smoke up through the vents. Our apartment and stuff stank of smoke. We told the landlord we'd signed for a non-smoking place, but he said our state allowed calling an apartment non-smoking even if it shared vents with a smoking one. Damn leasing laws. My roommates were leaving for 2 weeks, and I was alone with the basement smoker. I couldn't sleep or eat. Secondhand smoke made my stomach ache. After 3 days, I had a plan. I checked the weather. Lows in the 20s. I got a friend's warm sleeping bag, a ski mask, hat, wool socks, and a parka. I got hot drinks and prepared to survive on them, and I turned off the heat. Day 1, she yells at her mom for the icy apartment. Day 2, she shouts at her boyfriend. Day 3, she's yelling at the landlord about freezing. Day 4, landlord visits. I greet him in my gear, saying smoke warms me. Day 5, she's mad at us, and I'm ready with 911. Day 6, she leaves. Bless Greg.
Secret Service takes down imposter. I moved from Chicago to Baltimore for a job at the federal government. Back then, I became friends with a couple of guys who are my best buddies now. We lived together for about 5 years, but eventually, life took us in different directions. One of the guys, John, left for a Secret Service agent position. As everyone moved out, I thought I'd be a responsible adult and buy a house in 2007, just before the financial crash. Not the best timing, as you can guess. Some colleagues moved in, but they didn't stick around for long, leaving me in a tough spot to find a new roommate. And that's where my tale of revenge comes in. I put out ads everywhere to find someone new. Among the candidates, a guy named Russell stood out. He was a military vet, a sous chef now, and seemed easygoing. I was desperate to sort out my finances, so I didn't do the checks I should have. Trouble started when Russell moved in with only a TV and a few boxes. He claimed to be a former ranger, but his stories didn't quite add up when I probed deeper. Then he began making excuses about rent payments just a couple of months in. I sensed something was off and I asked Russell to leave. He complied, but not before cleaning out my bank account with stolen checks. Feeling a mix of anger, fear, and disappointment in myself, I confided in John, who works for the Secret Service. He spread the word, and they opened a case on Russell. Turns out he had been involved in financial crimes. In no time, the Secret Service agents tracked down and apprehended those who cashed the fake checks. One of them revealed Russell's location, so John and his team staked out the Dick's last resort at the Baltimore Inner Harbor. Russell showed up, acting like he owned the place and using my money to buy drinks for everyone. In a dramatic twist, John stood up and shouted, "Secret Service, you're under arrest!" Russell was swiftly subdued and the truth came crashing down. Russell's arrest and confession revealed a bizarre twist to his antics. He pretended to be an Army Ranger but had never actually served. Before being taken to the city jail, he asked John why the Secret Service arrested him. John's simple response was, "You robbed the wrong guy."
Unpaid rent consequences for Deadbeat. About a decade ago, I found myself in a tricky situation in a big city on the West Coast. It's a story of revenge that I hope qualifies as pro-level. Fresh out of grad school, I was eager to find ways to cut down on rent costs in an expensive rental market. But this experience, with a roommate I found on Craigslist, turned out to be a valuable life lesson for both me and my roommate. I needed someone to share the rent, so I placed an ad and entered the world of Bad Roommate. She seemed cool, a bit older, and had a stable job as a licensed masseuse. After a month of getting to know each other, we rented a loft in downtown. Our agreement was to split the rent and utilities. When the first rent was due, bad roommate claimed her work was slow and promised to pay in 2 weeks. I covered the rent using my savings. Those 2 weeks passed and she still hadn't paid. When I asked about it, she exploded with obscenities, accused me of harassment, and went on her way visiting friends from morning till night. This pattern continued along with her stealing my food and damaging my things. She even broke a bottle of wine that held sentimental value for me. Her excuse? Bad energy in the house. December rolled in and guess what? Still no rent. This time her accusations turned towards me making threats. The police got involved, but I didn't make any threats, so they left. However, they gave me a stern warning about future visits. My savings were nearly gone, and I was on the brink of eviction. The tipping point came when I found her threatening my cats. Holding back my anger, I remembered the police warning about being forced to leave the residence. And that's when the plan clicked. Here comes the revenge part. I called my best friend's dad, an attorney, for advice. He told me to pay up the rent and utilities for December, and then surrender the property with a signed note. After signing a new lease, I moved out, leaving bad roommate with minimal belongings. Days of angry messages followed, until everything went quiet until April. I was served with a lawsuit for breach of contract, but I responded and showed up in court. Bad roommate was there looking smug. However, things quickly turned around as the judge ruled against her, awarding full judgment to the landlord. The sweetest part? Best friend's dad represented me for free. And the final satisfaction? Months later, I received an angry voicemail from bad roommate. Her credit was ruined. She had an eviction record, and she was blaming me. I never heard from her again. To top it off, I found out she got into trouble with the law and moved to Las Vegas. In the end, my credit took a hit, but I managed to clear it after following my attorney's advice. It might be a long story, but it felt good to stand up against a truly terrible person.
Please like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you.